You're tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We're going to talk about prevention today, something that we haven't covered in probably a year since we've been on TV. Lisa Cartafamo is from the Blackstone Valley Prevention Coalition. Welcome, Lisa, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me today, John.
So, as you heard me say to my viewers, we haven't talked about prevention. I think we're at the point now where we need to talk about prevention, and our younger folks who are growing up in the schools become young adults again.
Yes.
So tell us what the Blackstone Valley Prevention Organization does.
I will. So the Blackstone Valley Prevention Coalition is one of 7 regional prevention coalitions in the state of Rhode Island. We are a public health organization, and we are funded in part by the Department of Behavioral Health Care, Developmental Disabilities, and Hospitals. The Blackstone Valley region covers Burrillville, Cumberland, Lincoln, North Smithfield, Central Falls, Pawtucket, and Woonsocket.
Wow.
It's a pretty large region per capita. And our focus is on prevention, and our mission is to develop, implement, and advocate for effective community-based prevention initiatives within the realm of equity. So that's our focus along the continuum of care is, it starts with prevention, then you have intervention, treatment, and then recovery and maintenance. So we are kind of at the beginning of the Institute of Medicine continuum of care.
So let me ask you a couple of questions
Sure.
pertaining to prevention. Obviously, your organization's in the schools, correct?
We are. That's one of the places we're in,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, what are the others?
So we actually, as a coalition, we bring together a number of sectors. The school sector or education is one of the sectors, so we work with the schools. We work with local elected officials, such as yourselves, and those at down in Providence and our local mayor and city councils. We work with parents. We have youth on our boards. We work with law enforcement. We work with businesses. We work with youth-serving organizations, other nonprofits, the media. So we work in a number of different realms, and that's the strength of a coalition, because you're bringing together all of these different voices, all of these different thoughts and ideas and experiences to work toward prevention and providing prevention messaging and education.
Well, the issue of substance use and mental health, obviously you know and I know, it's getting progressively worse. Your job is probably one of the most sought after, I'll use that word, to get into the schools, get to young people. Your work is going to be cut out for you because of 2023 and the legalization of marijuana and the other issue of alcohol, up 34% of sales in the state of Rhode Island since COVID.
Yes.
So what kind of calls are you getting right now? I know obviously the fentanyl is a big issue, overdose is a big issue, alcohol poisoning is a big issue.
Right.
But I'm fearful for our kids in today's society.
So let me kind of take a step back a little bit with prevention. I think if there's anything that COVID taught us, right? I mean, we've heard the word prevention forever, but what COVID and the pandemic taught us is how important prevention was, right? To catch it before it would spread, before people would get the disease. So using kind of our strategies to protect us against contracting COVID, just like with any kids, right? When they're basically little, we teach them, don't touch a hot stove, brush your teeth in the morning, brush your teeth at night, don't touch the electrical outlets, and stranger danger. All of that is prevention. And then as adults, we don't stop doing prevention. We continue. Prevention is a part of our world. From the minute we get up in the morning, right? We take a shower, take care of our bodies, eat healthy. that's all prevention.
Right.
Right? So I think what we learned is just how important prevention is in our world, and we learned to define it much differently, I think, during the pandemic, right?
Right.
Understanding
no
wear
doubt.
your mask, social distance, all of those things are what helped keep people healthier or gave people strategies.
Right.
So when we're working with youth, that's what we do, right? We give them information. We provide the important topics and information so they make better choices, because all of that is about choices. We can choose this or that and go down a healthy path or a not so healthy path. So you brought up all of the challenges that we're seeing. So in our programming, we use evidence-based program, whether it's youth, whether it's parents, whether it's our older adults.
Right.
And what that brings in is the right information. Our kids are learning from each other. They're going on the internet. They're hearing all about what you talked about, marijuana and alcohol, but they're not hearing the right stuff, right? We want to give them the information and messages that are healthy for them, that help them understand why they want to make the choice, especially when it comes to athletes too, right?
Right.
We want to teach them that if you do, experiment with alcohol, that can affect your endurance and performance for a couple of days. It's not just in and out, as we all think. It just can have those effects so that they know, oh gosh, I have an important game coming up, right? I have to pitch my best. I have to be able to hit, the ball in baseball. So I'm going to make a better choice, So those are the kinds of things that are important. And the evidence-based programs are critical because it has history. It has research that backs it up, that shows us if you provide this information and this programming to our youth, they will be better equipped to kind of not just say no, but make the
Make
right
a good
choice.
decision.
Right.
My grandson is 8, and I always tell him, be a leader, not a follower.
Right.
Because if you're a follower, that's when you have problems.
Yeah.
And you don't make good decisions. And what the kids today don't realize that the decision that's made today could affect them for the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
Whether it be college, whether it could be a job. And I tell people when I speak about postings on Facebook and Instagram, and when you go in for an interview, all right, John, thank you. What's your Facebook? And then people see that. They don't want someone who's going to become a problem in their company today.
That's right.
And that's a problem all over.
Right.
Not just for jobs,
That's-
but all over. So let me ask you a question about the other 6. So you said 7, right?
Yes, there are
All right,
7
so
regions.
the other 6. When you guys meet, does everybody around the table have the same issues, or is it issues by different communities?
So I think in general, a lot of the same issues that you already spoke about, whether it was underage drinking or now we're dealing with much more marijuana, although it's always been around, but now we're dealing with the legalization of marijuana. And I think we all do deal with those issues, but I think maybe it's different levels, right? And I think we all have, urban, suburban, and rural communities. So they have maybe just a different slant or different foci or focus areas.
Lisa, I want to talk a little bit more about this when we come back from break. You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. My good friend Lisa Casafrano is here in the house, and she's with the Blackstone Valley Prevention Coalition. Welcome, Lisa, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come in today.
Glad to be here.
I want to continue my conversation about the children. What kind of programs does your organization offer to, whether it be schools, cities, towns? What do you offer?
So we have a program, an after-school program
Oh.
at the high school, and we're extending it into the middle school, and it's called the Above the Influence program, and within that is the evidence-based program Positive Action. What that does is teach our youth about their brains, how their bodies work, how to take care of their brains and body and be healthy, and again, back to choices. That's what it is. In high school, middle school, all the time, it's all about choices. So that program operates each week, and we have youth that come to the program, and part of the program is designing messages for their peers. So we can design all kinds of prevention messages and campaigns, but our youth know what their friends hear and understand, and the way to talk to them to get them to listen. So part of the program introduces how to design messages, right, and how to get the word out, and how to be good kind of peer mentors. And it's anywhere from substances to mental health issues, suicide prevention, advocacy on violence, and crime prevention. So the messages are created and then distributed throughout the schools and within the communities.
It's a full backpack of information.
It sure is. It sure is. And the youth are really proud to, present their work and proud of what they've learned in the programs. So, and it goes throughout the summer as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's one of the programs that we operate with the youth. And then we have vape education that's in the schools, Keeping It Real, which is the new DARE program.
Okay.
Yeah, we know that DARE may not have worked, as well in the past, but now this is kind of the new improved. And then we have programs also for parents that also affect our youth, right? Like Strengthening Families. And then we work with some of our daycare providers on the Incredible Years evidence-based program, which provides kind of behavior management in the younger years. So there's a whole host of programs that we do provide, and all of them affect our youth.
Oh, no doubt. And you see a lot, obviously it's too bad we see it, but a lot on TV, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of overdoses. I mean, Rhode Island's going to break another record this year,
I know. Yeah.
which is unfortunate. But as you indicated, we have to start at a younger age. It's got to start in the elementary schools now. There's so much of it going on. There's so much turmoil in these kids' lives.
Yes.
And the stories that you hear are like horrific. Not necessarily in Rhode Island, but throughout the country. Who funds your organization other than BHDDH? Do you get funding from other resources?
We do. We get small amounts of funding from other foundations, Department of Health also. Sometimes the schools will lend some funding.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are, we kind of pull it all together when we...
What about staff? How many people you have on staff?
So we have right now 7 individuals on staff.
Is that one for each?
So we do. We have one municipal director that is Cumberland, Lincoln, and North Smithfield. That's Pam. And then we have someone in Pawtucket. I'm Woonsocket, and we have Burrville, who there's a coordinator there, Monica. And we have Central Falls. We have an opening there, a part-time position in Central Falls.
But the overall aspect of substance use and mental health, ever since COVID came on board, is much more challenging
Yes.
than ever before. A lot of mental health issues.
Yes.
Hospitals are loaded. I mean, we made the national news a few weeks ago pertaining to Hasbro and the amount of individuals that were in the emergency room.
With the RSV.
Yeah.
And
so it's almost like, and I say it a lot, it's a perfect storm right now. But I think the General Assembly last year was able to give a lot of your organizations and organizations throughout the state some funding to work with. Obviously, funding is, as I put it, it's not really adequate for what we deal with, because
Right.
it's a constant challenge every day and every week, pertaining to the stories that we hear, the influx of fentanyl into the state, along with legalization of marijuana. 2023. I mean, it's legal now, but by the time these facilities get up and running, the mass of influx of marijuana into the communities is going to be bigger.
Right.
We're talking today, but we're not going to be able to show our speech until after the 10th,
Okay.
which a lot of the communities will have elected or unelect them selling marijuana in their communities. It's
That's
on the
right.
ballot. So it'll
Most
be
of our communities have it on the ballot, from what I
and that'll be
understand.
interesting to see who is welcoming marijuana into their community and who's not. And, you know, and I say it all the time when I go up to State House too. You know, we're fighting an uphill battle right now. Everything is happening at the same time. You have COVID, you have the influx of fentanyl, you have legalization of marijuana, you have 234% sales of alcohol. I mean, what's next?
And sprinkled throughout that is the mental health of our children.
Right.
Right. And I think that is why our work is so very important, because we bring in a lot of the players to the table to strategize how can we get messages out, how can we do the prevention effectively and appropriately for our region and for our cities and towns. And I know with the opioid crisis, there's one model that we use, and it's called Project Lazarus. And I think I bring up that model because it's so important. At the core, it's kind of like a hub of a wheel. So at the hub of the wheel is your coalition and your membership and the organizations and resources you bring to the table as a coalition. And then within that is the public awareness piece, right? Reaching out to all of the different nooks and crannies of your community and region. And then on the outside with the spokes, you have provider education, which means educating those that may be prescribing, you know, the opioids.
We're gonna have to take a break and finish that spoke
Oh,
when we come back.
gotcha. I'd be happy to.
You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Right back with my friend Lisa, Blackstone Valley Prevention Coalition, right after this.
And now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Blackstone Valley Prevention Coalition is in the house, and my friend Lisa.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Lisa, and thank you for joining us today. Now, why don't we finish the conversation about your new car and the spokes?
New car? No. This is called Project Lazarus.
Okay.
It's a model for community work. So we talked about the coalition action that's at the hub. We talked about the public awareness. And within that is provider education. So making sure that, you know, providers understand the importance about good prescribing, appropriate prescribing. Looking at hospital and the hospital emergency department policies and looking at those and how do we connect people to appropriate services in recovery and having recovery specialists in the emergency departments. Diversion control. I mean, diversion control is important, knowing, you know, what's coming into our communities, right, and what's affecting and what are high levels and whatnot. Pain support, looking at alternatives for people because we know people are in pain and need something, so alternative kinds of medicine. Harm reduction, making sure that all the communities and everybody that needs naloxone has that, right, to reverse an overdose. Addiction treatment, ensuring that people can access treatment. And I know on your end in the work that you do, that's so critical, you know, because people need it when they need it, not in a month or two. So that's important. And community education, which we've talked about, and prevention is a piece of that. That's all the spokes of the wheel when it comes to the public health model and dealing with overdose deaths.
So
and
if people
recovery.
want to get a hold of you, Lisa, give us your phone number to your organization and
Sure.
also the email.
Sure. So it's Blackstone Valley Prevention Coalition. The phone number is 859-2500. I'm extension 1. My email is lcarcifero, CARCIFERO, at woonsocketpreventioncoalition.org. And I think, is that all you asked me?
I think that's it, Lisa.
Oh, my
Thank you for joining
goodness.
us today. It's great to have
Thank
you on
so
board.
much. It was great being here.
Dr. Chris Aniano will be my guest next week. You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. Have a good week.